podcast. I'm hanging out with my friend Rob Swiderski. I always
just
get
cough when you say it. Just cough. Swiderski. So you never get it wrong.
So we've known each other for over 10 years. We met through craft when you were involved in craft.
Yeah, the craft beer industry. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we've touched base a few times in the last few years. You switched and you started in on the mushroom industry, which anytime I talk to people about that, they're always assume that you're feeding people psychedelics, which I don't know. Maybe you are. Maybe we'll get into that. But and then what I wanted to talk about and kind of maybe raise some awareness on is just some of the challenges you've been going through in life just recently. So that's who you are according to my notes. How are you doing though?
Loaded question. How am I doing? I'm learning a lot. I think we discussed that before. I'm learning a lot about myself, about my faith. Really coming to a great understanding of the great support system and really identifying all the things that I have in my life that I should be grateful for.
Yeah. Or
that I am grateful for now. You know, the challenges will always be there. They're tests for us. You know, they make us stronger. When you're going through them, it doesn't feel like that though.
Yeah.
But when you have a great support system, and we have had so many great people, you know, we started this GoFundMe page for Tasha quite a while ago, and I'm not as active on the page. You know, building this business has consumed my life.
Yeah.
And trying to maintain, like I said to you earlier, a bit of a balance between the work and family. But every once in a while I'd be able to scroll that page and I'd look at these names, and some of these names of the people that had donated, you know, from past lives. Like these are people that I knew 25 years ago, that took the time to, first of all, go to the GoFundMe page and then donate. Man, like it just really puts into perspective the great people that we have had the honor of knowing in our life.
Yeah.
Like it's just, so, you know, that's been good. That's, you know, if I'm having a dark day, you look at that and you think about all the past times and all the past memories, and it really puts a shining light on and goes, yeah, okay, good. I'm good for another day.
Yeah.
Right?
So maybe are you okay to talk about what's happening with your wife?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's been quite a journey for us as a family, and myself and Tasha. You know, 20 years ago, she had a desmoid tumor that I was aware of, that she had been dealing with for a number of years. So when we got together, she had gone through her treatments. It was kind of benign. It was just sitting there, and, you know, they were monitoring it. And, you know, as long as we had regular checkups, it was good. And then last year, you know, she noticed a lump in her breast, and she started, you know, saying, hey, this doesn't feel right. So she went in to get it checked. And, you know, we thought, okay, hey, it's just the desmoid tumor potentially growing. We'll need to start, you know, doing some therapies on that. And that was the worst case scenario. But then when it came back, it was a triple negative high-grade carcinoma, i.e. a invasive ductal carcinoma, which most people know as breast cancer. So when we tell people, you know, she has breast cancer, it's like, okay, well, there's a 98% survival rate. You know, if you do the radiation, the mastectomy, and then the chemotherapy, you know, all the Western medicine stuff, you can take care of it, and you could be, you know, essentially cancer free. Some people, maybe because they're too far along in the process, they don't do as well. Right. So, and I'm not downplaying breast cancer at all. It's serious, and there's a lot of people that are affected by it, and, you know, we're going through it. So now it's a better understanding and more empathy on my part when people talk about it. So anyway, we had a different situation. The cancer is one thing, but the cancer and the desmoid tumor mix is where we had an issue. And we weren't able to start doing the regular Western medicine type of things that most people would do. I talked about those therapies that are here in Canada. And so she has an 8 centimeter desmoid tumor. that's currently wrapped around her ribs and is around her liver and lungs. And she has a 4-centimeter one that is actually wrapped around the cancer. So to remove the cancer, we would have to go in and exacerbate the desmoid tumor. When you introduce oxygen, it exacerbates it. And then even if you cut out a desmoid tumor, because people say, why don't you just cut it out? The chances of it growing back again are significant.
Right.
So it would be a continuous operation, one after another, to continue to remove these. And the introduction of oxygen doesn't help. And she was hit with so much radiation that at that point she's already hit her limit for radiation. So stuck with the thought of, okay, we can't do the regular treatments up here in Canada. We need to start looking outside,
right,
of other treatments. So Tasha's great about doing her due diligence, and we started looking at everything. Once again, that network circle that we had started, vitamin C injections and Rife machines and all these things, which is great. We really appreciate everyone sending all those. And Tasha went through a lot of that information, and we did. And she came upon a place called Invita down in the States, and they offered a lot of non-surgical invasive procedures that would allow us to take care of the cancer and potentially the desmoid tumor as well as the prolactinoma in her head. So we thought, okay, this is great. This could be something that, maybe this is what we needed. It was crazy because before we got the news back that she had cancer, she asked God, she said, I prayed for God the other day to give us a miracle. I'm at the end of a 3-year stint, sold my shares in Kraft to go build this mushroom company.
Yeah.
Not getting paid for 3 years. Money's running out. And she said, I prayed for a miracle because there's a lot of stress on the family. Like, well, what are we going to do? Like, what's going to happen? And then this happened. And I was like, well, in order for God to give us a miracle, we have to be put in a really, really awkward situation. So the worse the situation, the better the miracle.
Right.
Maybe this is what we're getting right now. So is this a blessing? Is it, so we're looking at it as a blessing. And so what are the learnings that we can get out of? So anyway, so she booked and she looked at all these therapies, and there's multiple therapies that these guys do down there. It's amazing, and they're all natural without surgery. It's CTF. So it's a targeted chemotherapy. So instead of blasting the whole area,
right,
and it's going everywhere, it's targeted specifically. So the CTF, so what it does, they do there is they starve the cancer cells, so put it in a diabetic coma, so that when they shoot the chemotherapy in, the cancer eats that chemotherapy.
Oh, okay.
So now it's feeding on a chemotherapy that's essentially creating regular apoptosis in the cancer cells. So the other thing is these are expensive. These are $25,000 US procedures.
Oh, wow.
So being at the end of a cycle where I have not been collecting a paycheck, what are we going to be doing? That the GoFundMe page has been so instrumental in her getting the treatments that she's needed. We're going to do some other fundraisings. We can talk about that in a bit. Mm-hmm. There's the SIPI procedure where they actually take the chemotherapy and inject it into the cancer mass. So it's direct to it. So, it's affecting that. And then they do all these vitamin flushes where they're pulling out her blood, they're detoxing, almost like a dialysis. Yeah. And then introducing the actual vitamins and minerals and everything that she needs to help with detoxification and clearing out all those cancer cells. So it's really, really cutting edge stuff. The people down there have been just amazing in supporting us through this. She's been gone since July 1st.
Really, hey?
Yeah. So she's been gone. And it's presented some challenges with the boys. We have 10, 12, and 15-year-old boys, and boys as it is don't share their emotions. Right. I don't as much as I probably should. I'm encouraging them to do it, but when you're being encouraged by someone to do something that they're not doing, there's not a lot of buy-in, right?
Yeah, so that's fair.
It's so we've been on this path. She's been getting the treatments. We still need to raise for 2 more treatments. She is coming home next Thursday because the treatments that she has are done, and we've run out of the capital to be able to continue on. So she's going to come home, which, you know, is going to be good for the boys. You know, I've had a couple of the boys had their breakdowns, and you know, they miss mom.
Yeah.
They're, you know, so it's, we'll get into the story later if you want about my 12-year-old, but yeah, totally. Anyway, so, you know, all these alternative therapies, she's doing well. She's in great spirits. You know, she's an amazing woman.
So have you been able to visit her down there?
We did.
Oh, good.
We actually had an opportunity. Her best friend, Mandy, was down there taking care of her, and so they had our 2 youngest boys with them, which helped myself and the other father of the family, of her best friend, because her best friend picked up, left to go down there to make sure that she was getting to her appointments, you know, cooking the meals, making sure she was taken care of. So we're super grateful for that. And they brought the youngest boys. So they lived down there for a month at the Airbnb that we had rented out. And so she had to come back and see her family, obviously. So there was a week there that was open. So I was like, well, we'll come down and we'll visit you, and we'll take care of you for that week. So it was great. The boys, you know, we went to Sedona. We took one day and drove up to Sedona, which is a very, very healing place. If you're not familiar with,
no, I'm not.
Oh man, like they have these vortexes that essentially where the energy is coming in and out of the earth, like they say, those are some of the biggest areas in the world. They had a chapel there that was chapel in the rock, and they just had some really, really good things that spiritually, as a family, we got to experience together.
Yeah. And
there was definitely some great energies happening. At the last day, Mike Gertz, who was doing the raffle for the vehicle, the Bronco, he put so much time into that. So shout out to Mike Gertz for everything that he's done to help Tasha through this as well. He called and he said, he goes, I had this message from God that I should come out and visit you guys while you're there. And I'm like, well, come on out. You know, we've got this place, a really good friend of mine, Blaine, had a timeshare that he was part of, and no one goes down to Arizona in August.
For whatever reason.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So he's like, hey, you know, I've got this place. I'll talk to the board and see if they would be able to give it to you. So they got us this place that we were able to stay for free.
Wow.
My wife is retired from WestJet with flying benefits, so we actually got to fly down for free. So it was good.
Yeah.
The price was right. So Mike shows up and we spent the day with him, and he goes, and I said, well, what was the thought of coming down? He goes, I just needed to pray with you guys. So we all sat in this room, and this is really crazy, Mark. I haven't told many people about this. I didn't know if I should be. And I thought, yeah, this is part of this faith journey. And he prayed, and he goes, I was told to put my hands on his shoulders and pray. So we all just kind of prayed together, and my wife and I had felt the tumor when I got down there. She said, because I think it's shrinking. And I'm like, yeah, this is definitely, the size has gone down. It was probably about half the size when she first went down there. So the therapies or the treatments were working. And he prayed, and then he was in and out like the day. When we were all leaving the next day anyway. So we were on our way to the airport. My wife called and she goes, you have to come down to the facility and the treatment center. And I said, okay, well, what's going on? She goes, and we had been there for a week, so I hadn't felt the tumor in that week. So, and she goes, I want you to come feel the tumor and the cancer, the mass. And so we went down. I pulled over and I felt it, and this thing had even shrunk even more. Like it was half the size from when I got there.
Right.
And I looked at her and I was like, did we experience a miracle? Is that part of the miracle? Like, was Mike given this healing power from God? Like we didn't know what to think. And we just kind of looked at each other, and it was a very blissful moment. Like we had a sense of calming over us, and I just smiled, and I thought, do I tell people? Because if it's not gone, did God not work? It was like, I truly believe what we witnessed there was a miracle. I think Mike was brought to us by God to do whatever. And
wow.
Yeah, bit of a different conversation from us. When did we have our last conversation?
Well, the last time we did the podcast was when I first started, and you had just done a boxing match, so slightly
Mixed
different
martial arts match. Yeah,
But yeah, that's right. But one of the things that I think is and I think your wife is lucky that you have such a passion for health. Like, even just as you're explaining this to me, your depth of knowledge and how much you've obviously learned through this journey, to be able to support her, I think is really amazing, because I think a lot of this, sadly, if I was going through it, I feel like a lot of this would have went over my head, or I feel like you have such a natural interest in health that I'm hoping and I'm thinking that you're probably a big support for her in that way.
To be honest with you, she's more of a support for me.
Yeah.
She's calling the boys on a regular basis. She's still studying with them.
Yeah.
I'm in my office. We talked about the number of hours that we're putting in. I don't get a lot of chances to spend with my boys these days. So the moments that we have, we try and make the best of them.
Yeah.
We do. We don't try. We do make the best of them. We do. We don't try. So she's been more of a rock for me. Yeah. I'm running with my hair on fire. Like, it's you wrangling up these boys, keeping the house in shape, doing the businesses, and so, like I said, without the support system, Auntie Cheryl, we've got this great friend of ours that comes over and cooks meals, all the time, and drives the boys places. My business coach Johnny has been amazing, because there's times I've been on a ledge, and the face that we put on social media. I haven't been on social media, I don't know how long, but the faces that we put on when we're having these kind of conversations with people, you don't see the struggle, the torment, and because you've built a business. I thought I experienced a lot of that. I knew nothing.
Yeah.
Struggle, challenges, the pain, they're all it's real, man. And it is all there to make us stronger and prepare us for our purpose. Yeah. And that's what I truly believe.
So I'd like to ask you about your business, because you started, like I said, when I met you, we were both in the beer industry. You were with Craft Beer Market. And then you recently, like I say recently, but how long have you been away from that and doing your new venture in mushrooms?
About 3 years.
About 3 years.
Yeah.
So what was the original vision there? And to maybe just kind of like explain how that's kind of played itself out.
First of all, I love those guys at Craft Beer Market, Scott, Frank, PJ.
I just had PJ. I just met up with him last week.
We were supposed to meet for lunch, and like I said, running through my notes, I met I didn't get back to him. So my apologies to PJ on air. I'm making a
exactly
public apology.
Yeah.
Those guys got something great going over there, and I loved being part of that. And one day during COVID, we had spent about a month away from the business when COVID happened, and I woke up and I had a vision from God. This is what got me back into I started getting a little more spiritual as I got, spent time with the family and taking the boys who were going through all their, confirmation and Eucharist. And so I took them through their sacraments, and I was just like, wow, why did I step away from this? And then one night I woke up and I said, I got to go grow mushrooms. And Tasha was like, what? And I said, this is my purpose. I went down and I started researching, and of course psychedelics came up, and you brought that up earlier.
Right.
And I thought, this is amazing. Yeah. I could be at the forefront growing psychedelic mushrooms, and it is a process. The regulatory that's wrapped around that, there's no path to revenue for probably still another 18 to 24 months while they figure out the legalities of it. So I started speaking, and I thought, okay, gourmet then. I'm going to do all these gourmet oyster mushrooms, shiitake,
right.
and then I'll sell them to all the restaurants. I know everyone in the restaurant industry. And then I started talking to this consultant, one of the top consultants in mushroom growing in the world. I reached out and I just said, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. He goes, can I tell you something? Forget gourmet, forget psychedelics. The functional mushroom industry is absolutely starving right now for production, And people are starting to become aware of all the health benefits that are associated with these functional mushrooms. You need to start growing functional mushrooms.
Right.
And I started looking at that and I was like, wow, this guy's right.
So what do you mean by functional mushrooms? So, because the ones that you had described before, which are what we would eat, as a food, or what we would consume as a psychedelic, those are the two that I'm familiar with. So what is a functional mushroom then?
Yeah. So the three classifications that we kind of go through is the gourmet. So that's the ones that you cook with. And there's some crossover in the functional world with the gourmet. Your oyster mushroom, your shiitake, like I said, portobello. So those types, right, would be considered more of the gourmet style. Psychedelics, obviously. Psychedelics, there's a bunch of different strains of psychedelic mushrooms out there, and what they do for mental health and PTSD and addiction and is going to be amazing. Functional mushrooms are traditional Chinese mushrooms that have been used for thousands of years.
Okay.
So mushrooms like the most popular ones are reishi, lion's mane, turkey tail, chaga. So we grow 8 currently, the 8 most popular ones, and each species has its own specific thing that it does.
Right.
The cordyceps mushroom is considered the Olympic mushroom, so it increases oxygen uptake and creates ATP within the body, adenosine triphosphate, for the mitochondria to create energy in the body. So if you want to get sustained long-term energy, take cordyceps. Lion's mane, cognitive enhancement, aids in the prevention of dementia and Alzheimer's. So it's rebuilding neural pathways in your brain, so it creates NGF, nerve growth factor. Reishi is great for calming. All the mushrooms have immune building properties. There's so many benefits to these mushrooms that we as a society have not really explored, but are starting to.
Right.
And to see all the different aspects of health that you can get from these mushrooms, we as a company we all have a vision to make the world a healthier place through natural functional ingredients. So one thing good about COVID, if there was something good to come from it, it brought a lot of attention to what we deem as medicine.
Right.
We looked at the pharmaceutical industry. Hey, for acute trauma, I think pharmaceuticals all day. I break my leg, I want Demerol to kill that pain.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
For long-term health, I personally don't think that pharmaceuticals really have a place. I think we can do a lot of these things naturally, and there's, God gave us these things on earth to be able to give our bodies the necessary nutrients to fight off whatever we have. So these functional mushrooms, so it went from, I want clean labels, I want labels that I understand, to I want labels that have functional ingredients in them. Right. What am I getting from these products? So whether it be like in our powders go into, we have one growing method that serves multiple markets. So we grow them, we dry them, we grind them into a powder, and then we sell them to manufacturers in skincare and cosmetics.
Yeah.
The pet industry is massive. Supplements, food and beverage. So we're taking and, we're doing a lot of really innovative things. Our president is a mad scientist. He's unbelievable coming up with things. We've got the first oral strips where we've taken an extract and actually put it into an oral strip.
Right. And
typically you would only get 50 milligrams in that before you couldn't have a dissolvable oral strip. Now we're getting 500 milligrams because it's an extracted form of this mushroom. We're using lion's mane. And 50% of the population don't like taking pills. Well, now you can take this little oral strip. Could be a breath. It could be a mint or whatever. And did I say meth? Mint.
It is not
could be meth. It's not meth. Let's get that straight.
Could be though. Maybe it is.
And you have your daily intake of lion's mane, which is, keeps you cognitive. Your cognitive enhancement is you're dialed in.
Right.
We've got something that he's calling Mind Blast right now. It's a 20-to-1 extract. And we took some when we were at this IFT, this food ingredient show. And, we're feeling a little bit tired by the third day. And he took this macro dose of it. He took a big scoop, and then he looked at us and he was like, and this is probably 7 minutes later. And this guy's a massive dude. Our president, you got to check him out. Rory Milliken, he's on Renovations. So he does this show with Jeremy Renner, where they tour the world and help charities around the world. But this guy's massive, 6'8" or 6'9".
Oh, wow.
He's a big dude. So he took this because he said, you know, things don't really hit me like they do everyone else.
Right.
Warranted. He's a big dude. And he was looking at us and he's like, I'm getting these tinglies around my eye and my brain feels like it has an electric blanket on it. You guys got to try this. I'm super alert. And he's selling, like we're in this booth and he's like talking a mile a minute to these guys. Yeah. And so we tried some and we're like, we have something really, really amazing here. Our CEO, Jeff DeLapp, was just like, this is our company. Like this is ours.
Yeah.
And so, you know, being innovative in the space and doing things with new products is what we want to do. We're a B2B wholesaler, so we'll sell our product to companies that are making consumer packaged goods. But, you know, we have a lot of this innovation to be able to launch some of ours that don't compete with our customers.
Right.
You know, we want to make sure that, you know, we respect the relationship that we have with them. So we're getting into, like I said, no one's doing these oral strips. We actually have a health diffuser. So like, you know, we've looked at doing it's almost like a vape for lack of better comparisons, where you inhale your vitamins. So he's got patents on those, and we're looking to, you know, not, you know, there's a lot of things that we could do. Our focus right now is to focus on the B2B space and service our customers and use the WestJet model. Give great service. When they first opened, you know, that was all about care and attention.
Asterisks, yeah, I know.
Well, you grow as a company.
Totally.
You know, culture changes, right?
Yeah,
but
totally.
When they first started, you know, they went out and they serviced the hell out of people.
Yeah.
And people loved flying with WestJet. It was just a great experience.
Totally.
So if we could do that as a producer and have those types of relationships with our customers, that's the focus for us, and really get these powders out to everyone.
And you're just outside of Vernon, you said, right? Is where you're producing?
Yeah, we through a relationship that our president had, he knew a guy out there that had this 500,000 square foot agri-tech dome and was looking for companies. It was just a match made in heaven for us. He looked at our business. He said, this is the anchor tenant that I want in this building. Like, you guys are perfect. So we took 50,000 square feet of that building. We have the first right of refusal on another 110,000 square feet, and we've built out our facility so that we could scale in that facility. So this equipment that we have there is massive. Our autoclave is our sterilization equipment. Yeah. It's the size of a submarine. It's like 40 foot long. These things are massive. And so we built it out so that we could drop more in line and we can increase our productivity because, like I said, this industry is starved. Right now we're getting supplied probably 85% or more are imported products from China, powders from China. Warranted, there are some decent products that come out of China. Like there was just Taiwan just released a news article that 9 shipments of lion's mane were turned away because high pesticide and herbicide levels in these functional mushrooms that are supposed to be getting us healthy, but are probably doing worse for people. And so now we have that opportunity to provide an organic, vegan, gluten-free, non-GMO, GMP certified powder with high Canada standards. And the supply chain won't be disrupted because we're in North America. Right. We can ship. Whereas when COVID hit, some of these companies that use these powders that we're importing from China had a rude awakening that our supply chain was disrupted. Yeah. We don't have product on the shelf. We're losing shelf space. Yeah. So we this facility is amazing. It's just outside of Vernon. We're GMP certified. It looks like NASA. And this growing method is, so typically you would think that everything's being grown in manure. We grow on organic grain substrate. Okay. We utilize the whole mushroom. So there's 2 parties that fight. It's the fruiting body, which is the mushroom that grows above the substrate. Right. That traditionally how you would pick a mushroom. You'd go out in the forest, you'd forage, you'd grab the mushrooms. But they were leaving some of the best part of the mushroom, the main organism is the mycelium. I don't know if we got into this before, have we?
Yeah, we talked about it once because you also pointed me to a Netflix show on mushrooms that I went and watched. Just learning, like you said, like what's underneath is like its own different. It's like how it's connected and everything is unbelievable.
It is absolutely unbelievable. The mycorrhizal, it's called, is the mycelium is one of the largest organisms in the world.
Right.
The honey mushroom in Oregon is 2.5 kilometers long. It stretches underneath. They call it the wood wide web. So this mycelium grows underneath. It connects to the bottoms of trees, and it actually exchanges nutrients. So if this tree has too much calcium or phosphorus or whatever, it'll exchange it with another tree, and they'll do the exchange, and in return, it'll get sugars, which it uses as food, and it grows. These things are amazing. Mycelium is a very highly intelligent organism.
Yeah.
Been around longer than humans. It's some people think that it came from an asteroid,
right, from
another planet, and it's just adapted. But the mycelium, so we utilize that as well. So there's bioactive compounds that are found in the mycelium that are not found in the fruiting body, and vice versa. So we want those two camps. You guys can fight all day, which is better, because we're going to do both.
Yeah.
So we've got a patented process a patent pending process that we use to really utilize the mycelium and get the fruiting bodies, large fruiting body with our products. So once again, it's the innovation that comes from the vision of our CEO and president that, they're just like, oh, how do we disrupt this industry? How do we make it better?
Right.
People have been doing things the same way for 40 years in this industry.
Yeah.
And it's ripe for disruption. But so we've got, we want to utilize all the aspects, even so far as the secondary metabolites that are secreted into the food source. So the mycelium doesn't have a digestive system. It essentially goes up to its food source, it secretes enzymes on it, breaks it down, and absorbs it. Right. A semi-permeable membrane. So it has a lot for defense and a lot for digestion. So those carry nutritional benefits and extended health benefits in those as well. So we're capturing that as well. It's like I said, this mycelium is an amazing organism.
You see, that's again, like your interest in just general health is amazing, because like how you absorb all this information and like where did this come from in terms of your desire to, because going from the industry, the hospitality industry that you were in, into the mushroom industry, I mean there's maybe not a further leap in a way, you know what I mean? So where did this passion for this kind of change of career path come from? Or this idea to do it? Because it's one thing to get passionate about mushrooms, but to literally just say, hey, this is what I'm doing and this is where I'm going, and then to see how far you've gotten in 3 years, it's I don't think a lot of people could have done that.
Yeah, first of all, once again, grateful to God for putting me on this journey. Yeah. Giving me this purpose. I always knew that deep down I had a greater purpose to do here. I want to contribute to getting people healthy. When we identified, like PJ was great. He had a vision. He saw the craft beer industry down in the States really, really before it hit. There's some people doing heavy lifting like Big Rock and Wild Rose and Brewster's, but we identified that and brought it up here and exploded it. Right. We were part of that big explosion that happened. We didn't do it ourselves. Obviously, there's heavy burdens are lightened when many hands lift. So there's a lot of people in that industry that did. So to see that we had the same opportunity in a different space that could get people healthy. Right. Man, if you're not excited about being a leader in an industry that hasn't hit us yet, because I still talk to people, I would say probably 85%, if not 90% of the people that I talk to, and I say functional mushrooms, and I tell them about a lion's mane or a turkey tail, or no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah. Which excites me. It was the same thing with craft beer.
100%. Yeah.
It was what people didn't know.
Well, and again, like, there's so much, like when I say, oh yeah, he's doing mushrooms, like what people think of it is the two ends of the spectrum. Like you said, what we're consuming as food or psychedelics. So yeah, the space that you're in, there's so much education that needs to go on, and there's so many benefits. So one of the things, so even if we were just talking about you as an entrepreneur, I think, these questions would be relevant, but then, what you and your wife are dealing with, and combining that with the idea that you're also on this like entrepreneurial journey that would, make people question their sanity. I'm really curious, as a person who's always been, you've always had a close family. You've always, whether it's posting silly pictures of you and your wife, you dipping her in every, possible scenario, or, doing challenges with your kids, and trying to be an inspiration to your kids. How have you been able to do what you've done, as an entrepreneur and as a husband supporting, his wife's, journey right now? How have you managed to keep that strength in your family while you're going through this? Because one of the things I would say, and sorry, no, but okay. I see it because it often breaks families, right? Like being an entrepreneur in and of itself can contribute to the breakup of a family, right? When there's health challenges, that can contribute to the breakup of a family. So when you're going through all of this collectively, how do you find the strength to keep your family together?
Once again, that's that support system that I talked about earlier, right? It's that, and learning that, there's something at the end that is going to be so well worth it. It's going through that pain to get to that point. And there's so many, you listen to these motivational speeches that talk about, at the end of this pain is this great, I can't really find the words to describe it, but for me, the opportunity, I want to be part of my boys, this is hard to describe. Jeez, the best thing as a parent, to see your child do something, and it makes you so proud based on the things that you've taught to them through repetition.
Right.
Whether it's finally them making their bed and understanding that they've accomplished the first task of the day without questioning, why do I have to make my bed? For them to do it, like my son did a backflip on his bike, and last night he's like, Dad, it made me so happy to see you so happy that I did it. And taking people through these journeys and helping them through the experience that we've had in life.
Yeah.
Is just something that we're meant to do. We're here to pass on our experiences to other people to help them not make the same mistakes. Warranted, they're going to. A lot of times, I never listened to people, and I made that mistake. And then totally. I learned, and I said, well, if I would have listened to you earlier, it would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
And watching the kids and giving them that space to make those mistakes and failing forward, right?
Yeah.
So have a lot of failures, but learn from those failures so that you don't continue to do them again. And us staying together as a family, our faith has kept us really close. My wife is an amazing partner. I couldn't have asked for a better partner. Like I said, even her going through all of this, she's supporting me by taking on duties X miles away, by calling our kids and still taking the time to study with them, have conversations with them, making sure that they're doing well, checking in with them, even more so than I've been.
Yeah.
Like it's, she'll be telling me, did you hear about this? Yeah. It's, and really digging in and figuring out what's important to you. Like, I thought about, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
It's to get people healthy, but it's to be able to spend that time with my family, like, building a business, to exit, to be able to have that time to spend with them, quality time, and, putting in the time. And I was all about, we talked about this earlier, that life balance, that work-life balance, and making sure that I kept that balance. And it's like, right now it's time for a little bit of sacrifice to be able to get to that imbalance. I want to spend more time with my family.
Totally. People always think balance is 50-50, but sometimes it's tipped one way or the other. So right now it's tipped in the, your head's just down and you're working, you're supporting your wife where you can.
Yeah, it's a lot of heads down, and it's there's something to be said about organization, you know.
Yeah.
And when you're in a little bit of a disorganization, you keep spinning and stuff. So you have to stop yourself
Yeah.
and go, okay, what are the priorities that I need to get accomplished here? So what are my tasks? Let's prioritize those tasks, and let's start knocking things off of that priority list so that
Yeah.
you're not doing a million things. Like it's like that inch deep and a mile wide, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let's get this off my list. Check. Okay, what's the next thing? Prioritize and check.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned some friends that have kind of went above and beyond. You talk about having friends when times are good, and then when challenges like this come up, to have friends, like you said, your wife's friend goes down
Mandy,
for a month
Yeah.
and hangs out. I mean, it's just like when you see friendships challenged like that, tested, and people just kind of like raise to the occasion, I guess. Like, that must be pretty awesome.
Once again, that feeling of gratefulness, and it's just mind blowing to see how much people have reached out and contributed, and yeah, just even if it's just a text, just saying, hey, I get one from you and I get one from Bill. Like, my sister has been coming over all the time. So it's really brought our family closer together, and it's really strengthened a lot of the relationships that I've had with people. I haven't been out of my house. I haven't been out with the boys to do anything with these people. I keep telling them, and it's people, I think have stopped asking me to do things because it's just my priority and focus is work and the family. When I don't have that, I'll have plenty of time to reconnect with friends, and I don't want to be disrespectful of the relationships that I carry, but this is priority times, and for me to be able to get back to those relationships, I need to sacrifice right now. I need to really dig in and make this work.
And another component that I feel all the time is community, because it was interesting when you brought to light what was happening with your wife and with your family. It was a lot of people, texted me to see, as a beer community, like, what could they do, and what were we doing, and and so I just always, people always talk about how special the beer community is, but again, like when we're in certain specific situations, how we always think, how can we help, and the beer community in Alberta and in Canada, you help grow that community so much, and so, like I said, I don't know how much they've reached out to you personally, but I know they've reached out to me to just to be like, what can we do to help? So, to know that you've created this community, that all of a sudden you were there to help so many people, and then when you're in a situation like this, all of a sudden you see it kind of coming back to you, that must feel pretty special.
We did something right.
Yeah.
Like I've always been a believer in genuine relationships with people. It wasn't just about business. It was about forming relationships and really getting to know people. And like I said, heavy burdens are lightened when many hands lift.
Yeah.
It was that whole process. And, what can people do now? We've got, I want to make this auction. We've got a silent auction that's coming up to pay for the last couple of these expensive procedures so that my wife can ring the bell. Essentially, we want to get her to ring the bell and come home to our family cancer free. She's coming home, and then she's going to have to go back. So this auction is going to be one of the most important things that we've done. The GoFundMe has been great. What I think what people have thought about the GoFundMe is when they go to the page, they're like, oh, I have to do 50, I have to do 100. It's not. Do 10. Like, don't have a coffee that day and do 10, right, and just pass it on to your community, because if there's 2,000 people that are donating $10 each, right, like that's a massive amount.
Yeah.
And not thinking like, it's on you. Share it with your community. We've got an auction that's going to be taking place on 32 auctions. It's an online auction site. Okay. That's going to happen October 6th. It's going to start. And that's going to run until October 13th. So October 3rd is when we need to have silent auction prizes. So if people are wondering how can they help, if you could send it out to the community, if you could forward to whoever, gyms, clothing stores, beer, breweries, distilleries. We need silent auction prizes bad. I want to raise, our goal, we need to raise another $100,000 to finish off these procedures. So silent auction prizes for this. And it's really cool. The October 6th is the start date. October 13th is the finish date. Well, my wife and I were married on October 13th.
Yeah.
So Friday the 13th.
Sorry, you weren't born, or sorry, you were married on Friday the 13th?
Friday the 13th.
Oh, okay.
It was crazy. We were in Mexico, and I went down to ask for her father's blessing. Mm-hmm. He was down in Mexico at the time, snowbirding it. And I went down, and he said, well, I can't come back up to Canada for a couple of years, so it's going to be a while for me to go up there. But you have my blessing. And so I looked at Tasha, and she's like, well, I don't want to wait a couple of years to get married. And I'm like, wasn't Mexico like Vegas? Can't we just get married here? Should we just do a quick wedding here and then have a big wedding for everyone when we get back? And she's like, I don't think we can do that. And my father-in-law was friends with the mayor of Puerto Vallarta. So we told him, and he's like, well, I can call the mayor of Puerto Vallarta and he can get it all set up for you. So he called and he's like, yeah, go down to City Hall, go do your paperwork. And so we went down, and 3 days later, we called the hotel and we're like, we'd like to book a wedding. And they're like, when? We're like, in 3 days. And they're like, you want to book a wedding in 3 days? And so everything was, and we didn't know what the date was at the time. And so we put everything together. I looked at it, I'm like, okay, let's get this done. And we had friends zip out our passports and all this birth certificates and things that we needed to get to them. And this is like a 3-month process typically. You'd go to the Mexican consulate in Canada, get all your paperwork done, blood tests, and then you'd go down and get married. Well, we're throwing it together in 3 days. And then I looked at it, I'm like, well, we haven't had our stag and stagette. So we went out that night and got shittered, like bombed. It was so funny. We had the best time, had a great stag and stagette, just her and I.
Yeah.
I said, I don't even have rings. So we went down to the market and I bought this little silver ring that I wear now. And then I said, you'll get a wedding ring. You'll get a proper proposal when we get back to Canada, but we need to keep it a secret from everyone. We can't tell anyone we got married because I want them to experience this wedding as if it was our original wedding. So this will be our elope wedding, our beach wedding, and then we'll have a proper wedding with all friends and family back up in Canada. So we did that, and I noticed I was like, realize this is Friday the 13th, this Friday, and my best friend passed away Friday, March 13th in a car accident with me in 92. And so I had forever really loathed Friday, March 13th. Not a couple years later, my mother, they called me and they're like, hey, Mom was in for a routine operation. Something's gone wrong. My sister called me. I was up in Edmonton at the craft up there, and she goes, this routine operation has gone, she's gone septic. So she's in the hospital right now. You need to get out to Penticton. We got to go see her because they say she won't make it. I'm like, she's in a hospital. What the hell could go wrong? And so I drove back, flew out, and we were driving there. And on the way to the hospital, I looked at my wife and I'm like, it's Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th. I got to the hospital. My sister walked out and she goes, she's gone. So Friday the 13th was a terrible day for me.
Wow.
Our hotel room at this hotel was 1331 both ways.
Wow.
1331. We were on the 13th floor, obviously. And it was Friday the 13th.
Yeah. And
I'm marrying the woman of my dreams on what has typically been maybe the worst day. I don't know. So now to have this auction finishing on October 13th is something, we're going to finish it at 10:13 at night. So,
wow.
So a lot of things coming together. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's the way to put it, but we're going to make this happen. The silent auction is going to be huge. We're going to get the money that we need to pay for this, these final treatments, but we can't do it without the help of this community. And I know we've reached out, and we've asked, and I'm telling you right now, this business is going to take off. We're going to do very well. And the whole process of going through all these trials and tribulations and challenges is to really refine what our purpose is going to be, to pay it forward and give back. And that's what the success is going to do. It's going to allow us to help everyone. And then, not that I can't help people right now, like, you know, we can still help whatever, you know.
Yeah.
You know, there's things that we can do outside of, you know, helping people capital wise. Like, you know, hey, you need to talk, give me a call. Like, I'm probably going through it. I've gone through it. You know, and I always want to make sure that anyone, you know, that is in my network and in our community, if you're going through something, pick up the phone and give me a call.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's something that I can do right now.
Yeah. I guess I didn't realize is how religious that you are. And you mentioned God a few times, and you know, I think maybe some people would be surprised by that. We were lucky enough to go for a walk about a year ago with our friend Jim Button, and you had mentioned it then, and like I said, you've mentioned it a couple of times. Where does your religion come from? Is that something that you were born with? Is that something you've found God over time, or why is the religion so important to you?
Yeah, raised Catholic. My mom, you know, every Sunday we'd go to church. Yeah, every Sunday, St. Mark's Parish in Northeast Calgary, where we grew up in Marble Park. And like I didn't really pay much attention to when I was there. Like
right.
any kid, do you listen? No, you go there and you try not to fall asleep.
Right.
And I got to a point in my life where I had pushed God so far out of it when I was in the industry, you know, booze, drugs, women. Like I was not living a life to be proud of, but it put me in the position where I am now. And I learned a lot from that. I'm very thankful for the learnings that I got from that industry. And not die flatlined for 5 seconds. I don't know if you know that. I had a drug overdose.
No.
13 different chemicals in my body. I was clinically dead for 5 seconds. They had to Pulp Fiction me to get me alive. And that really woke me up. That was, I think, the start. When you wake up with a pastor, a priest, your mom, your sister, and your niece at the foot of your hospital bed.
Yeah.
Not a proud moment.
No.
Not a proud moment. So I took that and thought, man, I'm here for a reason. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I could have passed away in a car accident, could have passed away from this drug overdose. I could have, you know, there's probably multiple times I could have died. And then, like I said, what got me back to God, if you want to know the spot where it all turned. My wife and I, you know, we had talked about it. She had been raised Catholic, and so we had talked, you know, do we get the kids baptized? So our first one was born, and, you know, we kind of, well, maybe we want it to be his choice.
Right.
You know? And so one day I was building a desk up in our new place, and my son was on a vibrating seat. He's up on top of the desk. I'm putting together the rest of the desk. The vibrating chair was moving, and I didn't realize this. So it got to the edge of the desk, and my 1-year-old son fell face first off this desk into the hardwood floor.
Oh.
Immediately started screaming. I picked him up. My wife's like, what happened? She came running upstairs. What happened? Did he? I'm like, he didn't. Okay, he fell, but he started screaming right away, so he wasn't knocked out. He goes, that's a good sign. Let's get to the hospital just to be sure. So we're driving down to the hospital, and in my mind, I was saying, okay, God, I know I stepped away for a while, but I'm telling you right now, if my son is okay, and you shouldn't be bargaining with God like that, but I said, if he's okay, yeah, that's right, I'll come back. And so I said, you know, I'll start going to church, and I'll start reigniting my faith. So on the way drive down, I told my wife, you know, I didn't say anything. We drove, got to the hospital. They kind of laughed. They're like, you guys are first-time parents. This is going to happen a million times. He's totally fine. Everything is good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And on the way home, I looked at my wife and I said, I don't know if you want to join me in this, but I just made a promise to God. I'm not breaking my promise to God after this. I said that I would get back into religion. I'd start going to church. So would you like to go? And she goes, I was actually thinking I'd like to start doing that. So so probably not the greatest story to tell, but we started going back to church, and then through our children being raised, you know, and going through Catholic schools, they started to do their sacraments. So
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, I'll take them to the church and I'll start learning the sacraments. So I really started going, wow, this is good stuff. Why would I step away from something that, you know, if you don't look at the institutional version of church and you look at the message that God and Jesus, you know, Jesus was around, there's tons of proof that he was around, you know, scripture tells it. So there's no question that God was here because Jesus was here. And there are multiple scriptures on that, people writing about it, him healing. And so, I started doing a deep dive in it, and I went so far. I met this guy that was doing the sacraments. Then I reached out to him and said, "Hey, I want to do more in the church." I go, "Is there any Bible classes that I can start attending?" And he goes, "That is so weird that you said that. I've got one starting next Thursday. Now I didn't know if I should ask you." And I said, "Absolutely, I'm in." So my buddy and I went and we started doing this Bible class, and once again, just the reoccurring messages of be a good person, you know, like have faith, you know, and it was like a motivational speech, but with God in it. And whether you believe in the universe, God, something, everyone believes in something. I choose to believe that there's God and he's directing me, and that we're going through this together. Although, like, you know, people say, well, if there's a God, how come he lets things happen? Well, bad things happen on earth because he gave us choice. Mm-hmm. We have that choice. And for him to condemn, it's like, okay, well, you know, that person should be killed for doing that. And it's like, okay, you're a parent. If your daughter did something, killed someone, would you kill your daughter?
Yeah, no, yeah.
You're a father with a bunch of children that you've let make their own decisions.
Right.
Some of them are going to make good decisions. Some of them are going to make bad decisions. So I've learned to not judge.
Yeah.
I don't know what you've gone through to get to the position that made you do something, either good or bad. Mm-hmm. So I've really got this, man, like if you knew me from a while ago, and that's exactly like, I partied hard and craft, like even like I didn't do a lot of bad things in the craft days. You know, I did a lot of bad things in the bar days. Like, there's a lot of things that I'm not proud of, like I said, but it made me the person I am. And I look back at those things, and now someone reached out to me the other day and they said, I just want to tell you that you've got this new calming way about you and the way that you address issues with your kids. I grew up in a house where you got a spanking.
Right.
And I thought at the start, that's how you raise your kids.
Yeah.
And my wife challenged me on that. And now we don't have that. Like, you know, we talk through things, we communicate. So it is, I've changed a lot. I used to fight a lot. I used to, and you know, then that whole challenge of going into that fight and learning how to fight, the more you know how to fight, the less you will. Yeah. So I can defend myself. And that's what I choose to do. And that's what I teach my children. Yeah. Is that the only time we fight is when we're in a position of defense. And then we're only in that position until we can walk away or run away or get away out of that situation. So coming back to God has been one of the best things in our life. And it's created a foundation for our family to sit around and have conversations about and join together and do things together. And it's really helped me understand these challenges and put in a fresh perspective. These are here to make me better. Yeah. And God's with me through this whole thing. And I have a great, solid group of people in that work around me.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So just to I just want to make sure that I have this clarified. You have the auction going on, because I really want there to be a specific kind of call to action of, you know, what can we do as a community to help you guys out. So if people do want to donate to the auction, how do they do that?
Yeah, we've got our, should I give you the, I don't have I'll put the website address. Is that?
Yeah, if you give all that information to me, and then we can kind of share it with our community anyway.
Yeah.
And
I'll put you to the people that are kind of helping organize it, because we have, once again, Cheryl Bonnet has been helping out immensely. Shout out to her. She's kind of running this. She's the one that comes over and helps cook meals. Auntie Cheryl is what everyone calls her in the house. And she basically lives at her house now, since she has for a while, a long-term friend. You know, and some of Tasha's other friends, but she'll be the main point of contact for getting the silent auction prizes. So I can give you that information on that. Absolutely. And I would really appreciate it, Mark. I know you guys have an extensive community.
No, anything, you know, just thinking about, like I said, since you and I have known each other, and the support that you, without even questioning it, have always given us, you know, like, you know, whether it's at our festivals or anything that we're doing, anytime that we've ever called you to ask for help, there's never been any hesitation. So for us, like, we always are looking for those ways to repay people that have helped us kind of get to where we are. And like I said, that's what I think is amazing about our community I think there's a lot of people in our community that realize that we couldn't have done it alone. And so it's just like, when we have this opportunity to repay, like, it's what we are here to do.
Yeah. And I think there's an opportunity to build a platform or a foundation for not just my wife, but how do we continue to pay it forward?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a silent auction that we do once a year for someone, or like pick your GoFundMe, or someone writes in and, this is what we're going through. This is what we need challenges with, and coming up with ideas to help raise capital, not just for us, because there's people out there that are probably in worse situations than us. I was very fortunate to walk away from Craft with a decent buyout to allow me to, first of all, start this new business, but then carry us through some of this stuff right now.
Yeah.
After not getting paid for 3 years, though, that it's another stress. But I have faith that it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
God will provide.
No, absolutely, man. Thanks for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. Like I said, you've always been, since I met you, a good friend and just authentic. I've learned a lot from just watching you. I still share a lot of stories of, like sitting down at Craft with you, and just, you're always, teaching your staff, and there was always a level of professionalism that you expected from them. But I think it was a standard that you had set for yourself. And so I always I learned a lot through osmosis, just kind of watching you and how you interacted with people. So, thanks for everything you've always done. And
well, and it's like looking in a mirror, though. You've done the same. Like that Cheryl lady that I talked about actually volunteered at one of the festivals and said that, the respect that you showed to everyone there, not just your top brass. It was just a respect to the volunteers and everyone, and your ability to just have conversations with everyone. Like, it's just
I think that's I learned that through Bill. Bill is like, his ability to get volunteers out to rally troops and stuff like that. He was a teacher in a former life kind of thing. And so again, just being able to observe from people, because, sometimes for me, I get like claustrophobic, or I get, it's a challenge for me to I get nervous around people and stuff like that. And so Bill just was able to kind of create that environment, that culture within ABF where, the volunteers, we've all become like a family. We just love it. We had a bunch of them here last night just playing crib and hanging out. So it was awesome.
And that's one of the things I was thinking of a fundraiser, a crib tournament. But that's very surprising to hear that about Bill, because he's such a jerk. And
Oh, he's a jerk to us. Yeah. but other people seem to like him.
He's such a great guy.
Yeah.
I love Bill.
But no, thank you, man. And all the best. You're definitely in our thoughts and prayers. And everything we can do to help, we'll be there, man.
Yeah, check out, if you guys want to get some more information on our mushroom company. It's www.mushroom, but it's spelled MUSHROM with 2 umlauts over the O. So it's an extended O. So mushroom.life. And, we are raising, I'm just going to throw this into, we're starting our Series A round to raise another $2.5 million US for that company. So if there's anyone out there that wants to invest, and, we're going we're going to take over this industry, and you jump on for the ride.
That's awesome, man.
Awesome.
I'm excited for you.
Thanks a lot, man.
All right. Take care, brother.
Appreciate it.